The Education Secretary Gillian Keegan joins us live from the Sun's spin room in central London. Good to have you on the programme. What's your reaction to today's debate?
Well, I mean, clearly I'm here to support Rishi. I think he did a great job of really going into quite detail about lots of different subjects, answering with a clear plan pretty much for everything, showing his experience really of having to deal with some of the biggest issues that we've had to deal with, whether that's the pandemic or Ukraine or even Israel and Gaza. He's had to deal with some very difficult issues, and I think that experience shines through.
It feels a little bit like you're, I guess, struggling to get your messaging out because the campaign's just been continually engulfed by stories like the betting scandal. We saw it again come up tonight, with people linked to the Conservative campaign putting bets on the timing of the election. How confident are you that your fellow cabinet members haven't placed a bet?
Oh, I'm very confident, but the thing is, it's always been difficult, Sophie. I mean, I've been on your show and other shows lots of times, and I'm trying to get over things like, 90% of our schools are good or outstanding. It was only 68 under Labour. Our kids are now 4th best in the world, 11th in maths, and they're 33rd in Wales for maths. I'm always trying to get the facts over. And when people say to me, why didn't I know that? I think, well, I try, and I try to get them over, but there is always some other thing that somebody else wants to talk about. And actually, when it gets down to an election, I mean, it is a week on Thursday that we'll have to make a very big decision. And it is a big decision because we're not out of the woods yet. We know that. We know we've still got massive backlogs in the NHS. We know we've still got, to grow the economy. We know we've got inflation under control, but we've still got lots of other things to make sure that we really rebuild our country after the pandemic. So it's a really important issue. And I do want to go on our record a lot more, particularly in areas like, education, which is that I've been responsible for.
I guess, the issue over gambling is that I really remember, that first speech that Rishi Sunak did on the steps of Downing Street where he said his government would have integrity, professionalism and accountability at every level. He made it his whole kind of, reason for being. So I just don't understand, why haven't the people who are being looked into, why haven't they been suspended?
Well, look, I've been a member of his government and I sit around the cabinet table with people that I think absolutely every day embody everything that he said on the steps of Downing Street. And I honestly
doesn't feel like it right now when you've got a police investigation, the Gambling Commission investigation. It doesn't feel like that.
Yeah, and to be fair, those things, I mean, hopefully they can be done quite quickly. I don't know what the timescales are, but to be fair, you do need to allow people to have due process, and, that will actually be determining then what follows, what actions need to be taken. You do have to put them in that order. That's pretty normal to put them in that order. I understand the timing is terrible. It's terrible for Rishi himself, and he's obviously very angry about it, as we all are. But you do have to get the facts established and then take the appropriate action based on what they tell us that is.
Does it feed into some people's, I guess, worse feelings about the Conservative Party, perhaps, thinking about Boris Johnson, thinking about Partygate? As Michael Gove said, one rule for you, one rule for everyone else.
I mean, you don't feed... What you see in the sort of Westminster bubble, the sort of journalists, what I'll hear here, is very different than what you hear every day out on the doorsteps. I mean, a lot of this stuff doesn't cut through. Really what they want to talk about, how you're going to help their family or their local issues. That's literally what they want to hear about. And there are still, and this is one of the things that I think most people are saying, despite all the various polls, there are still a lot of voters who are undecided, who, we hope they'll vote for us. They have voted for us in the past. They haven't made a decision to go to another party. And it does make things more difficult, but that's why we're out there all day, every day, saying, look, this is a big decision. This is a big decision, and you need to either have somebody with a plan or somebody that says change. There are a shower of slogans. It's like change for what? Change for change's sake. Everything he talks about, he looks through the rear-view mirror. He's not a leader, he's a follower, and that's all he's done, really, in most of the big questions, whether it's on Brexit, whether it's on who to back people like Corbyn, whether it's on anything, really. He follows, he doesn't lead. In gender questioning, there's another one out today. So I think it is a big question for the country, somebody that has a plan, that has thought things through, and somebody who's got slogans, and I hope that they're not too fed up with us, that they give us another shot, because we do have the right ideas for the country, and it will make a big difference if we have a bit more time to put the country back to rights.
So you're saying that everyone in the party's got off your bleeps and you're doing a bleeping good job on the campaign. Is that the message now, then?
No, I'm saying, well, there you go. It's, I would say that things are well, take that example, right? So we talked about that, RAC. I mean, you know, within one term, we identified where all the schools were. We got everybody back in face-to-face education. We sent out to all schools, this is how it's going to be fixed with a budget. And that is all starting to go ahead with all those plans going ahead to either fix the school or to rebuild in some cases. So that is a plan that was put together in one term. The Labour Party are now saying they're going to pause all of that. They're going to pause all the hospital rebuilding. They're going to pause all the new developments. And for what? I mean, RAC is well known. It's out of date. No political party is going to make a different choice. So you have to just get on with things. But that was something that, again, we got a plan, we've delivered. And, you know, everybody knows what they're doing, apart from the uncertainty now caused by the election. So that, I think, is just one example of many examples of once we've been faced with something, we've taken the right action, we've put a plan in place, and we've dealt with it. And that's all you can do. You know, it's very complex when you're doing, you know, running things in government. There'll always be something that comes up. There'll always be something new, either in our country or outside of our country. It's how you deal with it and how you put your plans in place to make sure you deal with it fairly. And I do feel that we've done that. And I also think we've made some brilliant progress on things like education. And if you compare our record on education with Labour's in Wales, theirs is dire and ours is absolutely fantastic in terms of the outcomes now for children.
I want to talk to you, while I got you as well, about the Institute for Fiscal Studies, a very important message that they've sent out today to all parties, saying they're ducking the fiscal reality after the election and engaging in a conspiracy of silence. In other words, the around £20 billion of cuts that the Conservative government have got kind of penciled in, if you like. They argue the kind of tax cuts that you're promising are effectively impossible under your fiscal rules. I mean, is this a real reason that you called the early election? Because there's just no way of making these sums add up in an autumn statement.
Not at all. And what we're talking about doing to make our sums add up is actually going back to pre-pandemic levels of civil service staff numbers. And there's plans going on, I know, in
well, that must a lot of money from that,
education.
Then. That's handy.
There is quite a lot of money from that because we did grow the civil service quite considerably. So it's to get back down to that. But it's also the welfare bill. The welfare bill since 2020, so during the pandemic and post, has grown by 35 billion. So what we've said is we will get that down by 12 billion, which is actually quite modest, really. But it's really better for people to try and help them back into the workplace. So there's things that have happened as a consequence of the pandemic that we need to go back to pre-pandemic. It's not unrealistic to say we're going to put staffing levels back down to 2020 and we're going to put the welfare bill in the same place it was in 2020. That's not too unrealistic. And of course, we know that we had to deal with these things differently because of the pandemic, but now we have to get back to normal, get people back into the workplace because we need their skills. We've still got 800,000 shortages of vacancies in the country. That's come down from about 1.3 million, but we still want to find people to take those jobs.
We're out of time. Thank you very much indeed, Gillian Keegan, speaking to us there from the spin room.
Thank you, Sophie.